Computer. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Delicately Wild. I have my dear friend Sanga, who has been on the podcast before. And I think before we begin, just based on what is happening in the collective field, I'd just like to anchor in if that is okay with you. Beautiful. As we set our intention for the highest timeline to be of service. I think it's always important to speak to motivations when we are uh, co-creating and adding to the quantum field. And I think our motivation today is to be of service in order to speak and to be an expression of source, to speak our truths and to possibly go into a little bit of the sticky aspects of our growth journey, our evolutionary path, our path to ascension, whatever you want to call it. It's really the unraveling of eternity within time and space. And so, again, just to set the intention that our objective is to be of service for the highest timeline as free will citizens, anchored into our hearts, Cathara grids activated, and our dragon bodies in flames just lighting up, and to be communicators of a set of values that represent unconditional love, fierce grace, self-containment, and, to be a reflection of that into our quantum field. So I welcome everybody. And just to give a bit of background, I have personally been going through pretty much a dissolution, what some would call in old terms would be the shaman's death or the dark night of the soul. And it's been a good almost 9 week process, not so intense the whole entire time. It's a growth process. But as part of that, dark night was the aspect around grief and witnessing that in essence, I was in a grieving process. So this is really interesting when it comes to human dynamics and understanding what's happening in our fields and being able to identify it, because sense making is such a big part of this journey, so that we can still the mind. Although we know that none of the answers come from the mind, it never comes from the mind and it never gets solved from the mind. Yet, when the mind has this understanding of what's happening, we can kind of soften into the nervous system and allow the process to continue. And we forget what happens through the time, because depending on how long your period of dissolution is, for me, I've just spoken to a kind of almost nine week cycle, of which I forgot myself in that, and I forgot what was happening, even though when the height of it was this anger aspect, and I realized that I was in grief. The depression part of the grief process was where things started to unravel for me, and I really felt extremely lost, extremely, you know, afraid, to be honest. I was really going through a lot of fear. And in that fear, based on what we are dealing with as those of us that, I guess, quest into the realms of consciousness and understanding creation, it can get pretty prickly. And so through my depression part of the grieving process, I lost and I forgot that I'm in a grieving process. And I then started to think, well, am I about to slip into a psychosis here? What is happening? What is happening? Until the end, where I was like, oh, yes, depression is actually part of the grieving process. This this aspect of downtime, this aspect of just resting, this aspect of total incapacity to deal with anything else other than yourself, your nervous system, your emotional body, and trying to factor in self-care is all that one is capable of during that time. So it was really a beautiful revisit into something I hadn't experienced for a long time, number one. Also, as a compassionate witness to all those people across the planet that are experiencing really, really deep times, deep emotional states, and that which we would call depression, which, it's part of my job to help lift people out of that. But this is what we're kind of going to talk to, and what we're alluding to is no one is separate from the field, and no one sits as guru, even though you are one that is a fay with how to get one out, the somatic therapies, the plant medicine, whatever it is you want to use in terms of liberating yourself, stepping into an empowered state of being. Everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through it. And I think this is the most humbling aspect. And so I've just come out of this space. And we'll talk a little bit more about some kind of, we can call them tests, or we can call them psychic attacks, or we can, call it a closure. So it's like your final exam. So you've come out like the phoenix from the fire, and you've risen from the dead, as such. And then for me, I often experience this test that comes in. And I think I'll speak a little bit to that later on. But then to kind of introduce you into the conversation at this point, and based on our conversation today, that it may
Yeah.
seem like you are entering into this space. And whether that's a projection or not, we will discover through this conversation. But
Mhm.
perhaps you want to jump in here, Sangha, and thank you again for joining me for another conversation.
Thanks, B. I love our conversations. I don't know, they take on a life of their own when we have them. I find like I go on this journey of my own discovery of what's actually going on. And so when I reached out to you this morning, it was more of a physical experience, or a somatic experience, where I just felt only something that I could call grief,
Mm.
along with rage, and it's small things that trigger it. And the example I gave you was taking my son to school this morning. I'm driving outside of the space where I live, and there is, about 100 people, like men and women.
It's a
Uh,
lot.
yeah, just sitting outside in the pavements, trying to get jobs, essentially. And it's close to, a couple of estates, and it's close to a shopping center. So people position themselves around where there is potential opportunity for people to spot them for jobs and so on. And that's just one part of this experience in Johannesburg. And I mean, if you see that every day, I don't know, you can't help but start to question.
Creation, reality.
You start to question, I don't know, for me, the question I had this morning was, what is the value or impact or purpose of any joy or delight that I have right now if there are the people just outside my house sitting and hoping for someone to give them a job every single day in the middle of winter? I mean, I'm always really impacted by the physical kind of, I'm going to call it, pain and suffering that people experience. I've had my fair share of that, and I have observed a lot of that as well. And the more I'm moving through my journey of, I'm going to call it, I don't know, my own ascension, my own growth, my own learning, the more it's becoming kind of really vivid for me, just
Polarized.
how difficult things are for people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How challenging. I mean, this is the conversation I want to have. Guys, I'm finding it very hard just to be alive. I think this is the thing. It's just very challenging right now to be a human being. And sometimes I wonder if I'm the only person that can feel it. And that's probably why I called this morning to check in. It's just, are you also seeing the same thing? Are you also recognizing the same experience? And how do you hold it in your body? Because I guess as you call it, it's the polarization. On one hand, I am moving towards what I'm hoping is a light that is a life for myself and my immediate people of wellness. I'm always measuring everything around this question. Am I well rested? Am I well nourished? Am I content? Are my children well rested, well nourished, and content? Are the people I love the same? But then if I stop there, is that even meaningful if I can't answer that for the guys that are just sitting outside my house?
Mm.
And so I sit in this really strange space of having this compassion and also at the same time wanting to move away from a place of just so much despondency
Mm.
to a place of being hopeful at the same time, given the fact that I'm a creator of my reality. I believe this, I know this, I experience this. And so, what responsibility do I have as a creator to
Well,
the
it's
reality that
interesting.
I'm observing? So it's
Yes.
just all of these crazy, weird questions that bubble up in the mind, that are so weighty to hold alone. And I feel like I'm really lucky to have someone I can call and just sort of throw all of the pieces that are coming up just in front of them and hope that we can make sense of it together. And I think this is the purpose of this conversation, that even articulating what it is that's the issue is challenging because it's a very, I don't know, it's a vulnerable place I have to go to because on one hand, I'm really for my own individual wellness and sanity, I move towards a place of being aware of what's in the shadow, but always leaning towards the light, whatever that means. But yes. It's just like this bad. I try to do that, but at the same time, I just feel like there's a gaslighting that happens, especially in what I'm going to call spiritual circles. Again, that's like a phrase that is loaded, but in those spaces, there is always a motivation to choose the highest. I mean, even when we started talking, we said we want for the highest timeline and
Mm.
all of this, and that implies a timeline that has less suffering, less pain, not focused on the shadow, not articulating with your own voice that this is shit, this feels horrible, this feels like it's not okay, this feels like it's giving me the strongest no feelings. Like the thing that keeps coming up in my heart is it can't be, there is no way of seeing, because spirituality, there's many ways of seeing. There is no
Mm.
way of seeing for me that can convince me that this is okay for there to be so much suffering and pain in comparison to all of the other things that are joy and delight and wellness, or maybe just even the basics of being well rested, well nourished, and content. Like, you can't say to me it's okay that people aren't well rested, well nourished, and content. Like, it doesn't matter what you believe. And the majority, in my observation, is that the majority of human beings right now, very few are well rested, well nourished, and good. Apparently, only the Swiss are. But this is my frustration. Like, how can this be? And
Yes.
if we are people that say that we are connected to what is and we create our reality, then what do we do? What are we creating? First of all, why is it so? What responsibility do I have? And that's why I was saying to you this morning, at this point, I really could use a God outside of me
Mm,
where I can go to them to pray and say, please help us, help all of us, because I feel like I can't really do that. But my belief system, my values as that I am creator. So just that puts me in a really awkward position
mm,
because then it means I'm creating all of this. So what the hell is going on? And how does one hold all of this in their body? And to be just clear, I'm not someone who sits and watches the news and digs deep in politics. I'm not political. I'm not all of these things. So it's not like I'm
being
infusing my reality
bombarded,
with
yeah.
all of this stuff. No, I'm actually very disconnected from social media. This is from things that when I look around me with my own eyes, the things I'm seeing and experiencing, not things I'm reading and
Mm,
being told about.
mm. Yeah,
So
it's like hard to misperceive what it is that is right in
yes,
front of
this is
you.
what I'm saying. So I'm seeing what I'm seeing. And I think it's important that we say what we are seeing and experiencing. And what I'm seeing and experiencing is that it's gone beyond what I feel is harmonic and balanced because I do understand that life has its ebbs and flows, but come on.
Mm,
Like what's going on is outside of the line of what's okay. And
mm,
then again, I'm just like, how then would I know? Because I'm just human, how would I know if this is enough suffering? I mean, how do I evaluate? But there's got to be a place, like a point. And for me, I'm just saying my heart is that place where I evaluate and say, it just feels like it's more than it should be. It's gone beyond the place where we are just learning lessons that move us from point A to point B. So, what is going on and what is our responsibility? And more than that, how do I hold all of this, you know, polarity in the same body? Because I'm also very conscious that, you know, there's a sense in which all of this is bliss and everything is as it should be. And this is not even a woo-woo thing because I do experience those moments as well.
yeah.
Where in the context of all of this, I am in complete bliss. I feel, I know, I am fully convinced that everything is as it should be. But then at the same time, there are moments like this where I'm like, this is fucked up. This is very shit. It is not okay. Why is nobody saying anything about it? So yeah. And I guess this is the thing. This is the crazy making thing, because
Mm,
then you're sitting with these conflicting ideas in your mind, and
mm.
I just want to talk about it. And I think it helps if someone just like says it, that it's hard, and then maybe someone else will say, "Oh my goodness, thank goodness somebody said it is very hard."
Yes.
It is overwhelming. It is too much. Then we're not all trying to like make it look like it's
Kumbaya away.
it's,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
so horrible. So
yeah.
yeah, this is what's going on. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's being in your 40s. Sometimes I think that it's like because a person is in like their 40s, suddenly all of the illusions come off, and this is what the disillusion is that this has always been this way, but you have always just not
Mm,
been willing or have didn't have the capacity to
mm.
look and see
That's yeah, that's a really powerful statement. Like, has it always been this way?
in
Because
this way.
the thing is,
Yes.
like within the truth community, and this is kind of what sometimes brings me back to center within, like, let's say the truth community, truthers, those that are exposing things. It's like there have been stories that have been trying to be exposed for, decades, decades and decades and decades and
Mm,
decades, like in the 60s, the 50s, the 70s, like space programs, UFOs, disclosure. Why aren't we receiving the truth? The Vietnam War, the this, the that, conspiracies left, right, and center. So there's always some, it seems, let's call it a truth theory or a conspiracy theory is what most people call it, that is trying to be exposed through the ages, and the and it doesn't stop. So it's like, in that COVID timeline, everyone was waiting for things to go back to normal, but the data keeps adding and adding, and now we've got
Mhm.
AI as another topic, of like infiltration and fear and whatever, and also, of course, the technological revolution of what that can bring from a positive perspective. I don't mean to put a negative spin on AI, but and it's like you say, has it just always been there? And I think the answer is yes. It's something has always been there, and so it poses the
Mm.
question: what is the issue with Earth? Is there such beauty in it that because such beauty exists within it, there must be that opposing force field that comes in and is trying to grab it because something is amiss, like you say, something is not sitting right, something is
Out of harmony
out of
somehow.
harmony, it's out of
Mhm.
harmony. And I guess the mind warp aspect of this is that we begin in our spiritual maturity to have the recognition of our eternal nature. And that can be a real freak out as well, because if I go back to this historical aspect and say there's always been a story to disclose, that links to personal human freedoms and sovereignty. And so, is it going to be like this for eternity? You know,
Yeah, it's
are we
not just
going?
something that keeps looping
Correct.
over and
Correct. And this is like a lot of the subject matter that I've been speaking about is like, okay, cool. So we say Earth is a polarity construct, which means there will always be that yin and yang. Yet
Mhm.
those of us on a certain soul path and evolutionary process that are trying to connect through to source, back to source, rather than these codes of entrapments, that would create a trinity. So instead of a binary system, we're entering into
between.
trinity. But then with the statement, Earth is a polarity system, that becomes null and
Exactly.
void, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And yet somehow that story, like you say, it's a loop. And it really is a mind warp when you're like, okay, cool. So it is a loop. When we start going further into AI aspects, agendas around siphoning systems, we can say, okay, cool. So it is a loop. There are energy siphoning systems. We can then bring in simulation theory and say it's all been programmed to keep us in the loop. What does
Mhm.
the Trinity even look like? Um, and does harmony represent the Trinity? Which doesn't really exist right now because everybody knows that Earth is a polarized
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So we keep reinforcing the creation model that this is just how it is. And like you say, this is where our grief comes in. And when that anger comes in as part of the grief process, good grief, like, it's
Good grief.
yeah, I know. Very interesting expression, like like it's not good grief, it's raging grief, it's
Yes.
sacred anger, it's explosive, it's painful to the core, it's real. And I guess your question is, are we supposed to just be okay with understanding that it is so and it is such because Earth is a polarized system?
And I feel it requires, I don't know, I feel it's untenable and that it requires resolution. And as you were talking, I got a very strong sense that it is that place internally that knows something beyond the polarity. And I'm sure
Mm,
you have connected
mm,
with this place before.
mm.
And it is in that place where there is this sense of bliss or harmony because it's beyond
Time and space
bad and good, time and space.
and out of the
Yes,
loop.
no, it's it's completely out of the loop.
Out of the loop. So
Yes.
this is the interesting thing.
Yes.
Like, what does so if we were to move to our creative, aspects now as creators, what does out of the loop mean? So it's not even how do we get there, but it's like, so for me, I would say, just playing around here hypothetically, like, is getting out of the loop, does that mean we reach a singularity point? Does that singularity point mean dissolution? So it's a reset
Hmm.
moment, so it's an
Hmm.
absolute dissolution. What
Yeah.
does reset look like if we're in a natural system, which I don't think we are? So if it is a sim, like, is it like a schism, or do we just return to source? Um, is source even attainable in that reset moment? Or are there other siphoning systems that may use that energy because energy never dies? So, maybe dissolution and something else sucks it into its black hole system to create another reality. And then how else can we play with this? Oh, is it, it does reset mean extinction? So we're starting again because
Hmm.
we have had many extinctions of civilizations or extinction periods, let's say that,
Hmm.
extinction periods of the earth. And then there's also, along with extinction, we've had different seeding programs. So we are the third seeding on within the solar system of what we call human. So it's like, are we moving to a new seeding because the program is diseased, sick, and like you say, it's disproportionate. It's no longer in harmony. So this is very, very powerful conversation because again, we're asking what are our belief systems, and we can only come back to service. So part of what you were asking is like, what are we supposed to do here as a being that calls itself creator? What is my focus? Because if I
And
focus on, let's say again, this play around the Trinity being singularity point, extinction, reset, am I a proponent for this level of change? Because or does the Trinity mean something else? Like it's some utopian paradise of kingdoms of whales floating through the air, or what, do you know what I mean? Like, what is it
yeah,
that we're focusing on? And I think that's the ultimate question that many of us are asking in the roles that we have at the moment as creator. It's nice to say, I'm a creator. We have recognition of that, we have validation of that, we have manifestation of that. We've learned that is a true statement.
yeah,
But with creator title comes great responsibility, and
responsibility. Yes.
and
Yeah.
we then need a focus point. So I don't know if you want to take over from here. What do you
Yeah. I mean, so many things I want to say, but maybe to start with, there's something that just keeps coming for me, and this is I've seen the future. Um, and the only way we make it, whatever making it is, if we're at least talking about our physical bodies, the only way we make it is if we take care of each other. It's just
that's
the alternative is nobody wants the alternative. Even the people who think they want the alternative, nobody wants what happens when we do not take care of each other.
so may
Um,
I ask if you say you've seen the future, have you seen more than one probability of the future? So you've mentioned the first thing you mentioned was we look after each other and we will make it. Is that the one thing you've seen, or is it like because there was the polarized aspect of that statement is nobody wants what happens if we don't?
yeah, I mean, I think
Or is it just an obvious logical deduction? This is like logical deduction that's
it's
So
It's
again,
something
choice point,
that
right? It's a timeline choice point.
this is the thing. So there is this, so we had the other day this conversation about the bifurcation of timelines. Essentially, this is about the choice point. And when you talk about the Trinity and that being harmony, what comes to mind for me is the third position,
Hmm.
which makes the Trinity. The third position is birthed from that place where we make that leap, that choice. And if you remember when we talked about the bifurcation of timelines, we talked about how the past almost collides with,
The
I'm
now.
going to say the future, because when you're in that state and you're able to see, like I'm saying, as in the future, you're also able to see the past. And in that moment, when they come together and they come together in your body,
Mm.
because the seeing is a holistic, somatic, everything seeing, and when that happens, it's as if there is this very fast vibration that happens and something pops. And this is the third. It becomes the third position,
Mm.
the Christ, the child, if I could, the alternative between the
Or
bad and good.
unification.
It's the unification. That's it. It's the unification of the two. And so it feels to me that,
Yeah, so may I ask, so I mean so this is where language comes in. Would unification inevitably mean that we no longer have three? So we were speaking of a trinitized point. So we no
yeah.
longer have three, but we're back to
But
one.
then we return to the singularity of it.
Yes.
But in the singularity, it is made of the two, the
Yes.
unification of what was two. It's
So it's
this
balance. So you
kind of
have
thing
again masculine, feminine, and then the absolute
in
balance
one.
of it. Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
this becomes the harmony. And every time I see this, I see this these like vibrational entities that sort of comes together and then something pops, almost like it gives it a charge, a power, an ability to kind of leap up and over. I guess you'd call that a quantum leap.
Mm.
And this is the thing about seeing. You see it, it has a quality to it that feels experiential, even though you aren't physically doing anything, but
Yes.
it's almost as if you can see and feel and experience yourself in that future condition or in that past condition. And when those are felt in this now moment in your physical body, that's when this dissolution happens. And it feels like such I guess a depression, a grief, a combination of this like rage and grief, and out of this firmament, almost like this fire, something new pops out. And that when that happens, the feeling I get is this, that we really must take care of each other. The community for me, and I know everyone's talking about community all the time now and all of this kind of thing, but the sense of our connectedness, not even just in the way we just talk about the experiential feeling, sensation of our connectedness,
Mm.
is the thing that is the thing that motivates this need to care for each other when we really have this understanding. Because I feel like everything else that is causing a lot of the pain is based on a system that is about making separation between everything. That's kind of how it works.
Mm.
When there is this deeper understanding of our connectedness, then even the messages that come through to us are, they move within us with so much ease. It's not just words that can help us understand. It's new ways of living together and sharing space and sharing resources, and all of these things come from that understanding of our oneness. And so it becomes clear. It doesn't become like a stick and carrot thing. You must take care of each other. Otherwise, it becomes a this is our natural kind of way of being
How it
because
works.
this is how it worked.
This
You
is, yeah,
understand?
it's the most logical way that it works. And it's so we'll step into the speaking aspect, to the speaking of the shit. Today I was making food for a retreat that I've got this weekend, and I just listened to something different, not a spiritual thing. This beautiful guy, I can't remember his name now. I'd love to give him props, but it was essentially this little 26-minute video on YouTube. Why are food prices so expensive at the moment? And he basically goes into very, very well documented, very well researched, because it's a public company. You can get the records, the financial records of
Mhm.
what the shareholders have made, et cetera, et cetera. And the I guess the produce that they used to describe was eggs. And I don't know if we had it in South Africa. I don't do a lot of shopping, right? But apparently around the world, I think it was 2023, there was the avian flu, right? And so there were these signs in restaurants and shops saying, price of eggs have gone up. Sorry, that means
Mhm.
that means the cake has gone up. That means all of these little items
Wow.
have gone up in
Interesting.
price, right? Thank you. It's the avian flu. Obviously, what is happening is the media is saying, guys, there's avian flu. Price of eggs have gone up. Donald Trump is saying the price of eggs have gone up. And yet, when they did the research and checked the profits, so it's like the companies basically made like trillions of dollars. They increased their profits, so their costs didn't actually go up. And the fact that they were saying there were less birds, so there was less produce. So if there's less produce, we've got to raise the price of that
Mhm.
produce, right? This is just
Mhm.
basic economics. But whether there was or was not less produce, they literally went into trillions of profit, like more than, the last 3 years of their business model. And
Yes.
they were speaking about that across all like food chains. And one of my real dear friends, I need to do a podcast with him as well, is speaking about how food gets transported to like something like over 20 different hands before it gets
Before it arrives.
to the
Yeah.
shop.
At your
And in order
day.
to get, it's picked unripe. And so then this ripening process starts with mechanical processes on, through trucks, and, it's
Mhm.
growing while
Mhm.
it's moving, and it's moving a distance of 1,000 kilometers and moving through all these different hands. So I think it was 40 different hands or something. I used the word 20, but I think it was about 40 different hands before it gets to the store as this beautiful ripe, um, you know, um, fruit or whatever it is. And the point I'm trying to make is the manipulation in crisis, right? There is so much manipulation that is happening in crisis. And when you look at who owns the companies, it's just this small little bunch of elites or whatever, monopolies, let's call it that. Let's not give loosh power to that aspect. So let's call it the monopolies. And I just listened to this so disgusted and thought, you know, when will the fat cats stop manipulating crises and playing the markets in order to profiteer off of people that are moving through massive amounts of trauma purely by being human on this
Human.
planet?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you have any form of empathy, no matter your religion, your color, your race, your creed, your whatever, your belief systems, if you have any empathy left, there is so much happening. And I think this was part of our intention, was to highlight that the spiritual path is hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. And an example that I want to give is, through my grieving process recently, I tried to be as honest as possible. I tried to be as open as possible. In fact, I will post videos of me breaking down, or not videos. There's one video. It takes a lot of courage to do that. It is very um, calculated and there's writing that goes with it. It's not there as a feel sorry for me post. Um, and basically, we've got these processes that happen where I display my grief, I display my shadow, I display the tough aspects of this human experience. And when people ask me, how are you doing? I will be honest. I don't say, yeah, I'm okay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Like, I'm
Mhm.
honest. I'll say, I am in a mentally difficult place right now, or in my mental and emotional body, I'm in a difficult place right now. Um, and further down the line, if it's not shifting and I need to be a little bit more clear, I'll say, I'm feeling really angry. I'm actually feeling really depressed. And the interesting part of this was this to those that were close to me, and speaking particularly to masculines here, they cannot handle it, or family members, my family members can't handle it, right? Where they're like, just go out and get some exercise. And those of you that know what depression feels like I said, to even move into a self-caring action on a day, like taking a
Mhm.
bath, taking a shower is a big step.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting yourself some groceries, eating the right foods. Never mind trying to pop out for a good old run and pop to the gym for a
Yeah.
little roast.
No, it's
Like,
not gonna
that shit's
happen.
not
Yeah.
going to happen, right? And it was just so interesting how people cannot talk about it. They're so afraid of deeply emotional states. And another message I got from a friend was, you're breaking down online. Are you okay? What's going on? You're still in searching and suffering. You need to find Jesus. Your searching will stop. Why the tears? It shouldn't be that difficult. If you find this path of the Christ, and I'm speaking specifically to the Bible aspect here, then you will be fine. You will be liberated from all pain and suffering. And so again, we come to these creation stories, our belief systems, and how they create. However,
Mhm.
I think the ultimate truth that I don't think anyone can deny, because there is empirical evidence. If you break everything down to an energy format and therefore it is consciousness, the ultimate truth is it is all one. And if that is true, and it is, because the science, okay, so those of you that are science buffs, the science can prove that, and you cannot deny it. And so, from that perspective, it's like, yes, I am feeling what is happening. I am feeling the pain and suffering. I am deeply emotional and empathetic. I am connected. And therefore, yes, I am feeling pain, suffering, anger, grief, for possibly my inability to be able to do anything. And more than anything, it's a processing. In fact, what we're doing in these
The
timelines,
processing space.
we're processing
Yeah.
it. And through the process, because this is the question we ask ourselves, well, what can we do? I'm just one being. What we can do, our only job is to process it, because the prior to the processing, we are in war. We are witnessing the polarity.
In resistance to, yeah.
Correct. So
Yeah.
in war with ourselves, we're in war with creation, we're in war with reality. We see it for what it is, which is what is required in order to move an evolutionary step up the quote unquote ladder. But it's going to bring you through turmoil. It's going to represent that which is right in front of you, which is, beauty and war, or good and bad, or whatever.
Mm.
And we fight that because it doesn't, it seems disproportionate, it seems unfair. We want to fight creation, we want to fight God, and we've got to come back to peace. And this is it. It's like, so what do we do? How do we do it? How do we come back to service? Is we've got to come back to peace within our own our
Those.
own bodies, and then we can witness creation in a far more peaceful and harmonic space. And
Yeah,
perhaps that then creates the potential for that trinity or that unification timeline to come in.
come
This is the
through.
only way that I can think of it, and this is what I guide, and this is what I teach, and this is what I feel because, can you help one person on the side of the road? Yes, possibly. Can you help 100? Maybe a company can, but many individuals are just struggling to help themselves.
Themselves. Yeah, exactly.
No?
I think this is the situation that the majority of people are just working on living through the day.
Yeah, just the day.
Yeah, just getting through the day. Um, and you know, the question around what it is that we do and that coming back to our own peace is really the fundamental thing to do. Um, I also felt today, even as I was kind of in my big struggle about what to do and why this versus this, it was clear to me that the whole thing is about the reconciliation
Hmm.
um, of it all, and that being in a position, and this is something I've noticed a lot, is that I get into these states when I'm also in the position of being in judgment with my reality, or that my relationship with my reality is that I am in judgment of it.
Mm,
So I look at what I see and I say, this is not okay, or
mm,
it'd be better
mm,
if it would be that way.
mm.
And it feels very strongly in my heart, because, harmony as my coding is very closely linked to justice.
Mm.
So when I observe certain things, it feels to me that this is unjust, and then this kind of overwhelming sense of we need to be correcting this and making it just
Well,
so that we can come to
this is where the
harmony.
martyr program comes in, right?
I
And
see.
and what's interesting is when we are moving through the thought processes that you've just described, so I'm seeing it as unjust, we must fix this, or it should get fixed, let's say that.
Yeah.
Um, it is disproportionate, it is unfair. Uh,
Hmm.
Essentially, what we're doing is adding energy to that storyline. And
Yeah.
so this is, as unjust as it feels, as disproportionate as it seems, as polarized as it is polarized. It is the greatest opportunity for us to step into mastery, energetic mastery.
Mhm.
Because with those distractions, so, and some people could say, how dare you call what is happening a distraction?
I was about to say, actually, that is a very good description of what happens. It's a distraction.
Correct.
It's real. I mean, people are experiencing all of the pain, but it it is a distraction from that central place that
Yeah.
knows that even with what I'm seeing, there is this place where I'm gonna call it a higher place where all of this comes together and is, I'm gonna use the term maybe purified or harmonized in some way. There is that place, and you can connect to that place. You can move and live and be nourished from that place. It's
Mm,
a real place to come from, in the same way as the state of being in shadow or negativity or being in love and light vibes. There's also a state, there
yes.
is a place that is beyond both, or in my experience, where when you arrive at that place, there isn't this need to pronounce judgment on anything.
Mm,
You observe it, you can experience it as grief, but there isn't a judgment on it
correct.
to say this is wrong. It doesn't mean that when you're not in judgment, you are condoning or you are in this like happy-go-lucky place. It's you feel both things
Yes.
meaningfully, viscerally. You allow them to move through you in the way that they move through you, but there is you kind of hold a center
Mm.
where you're observing it without this extra layer of judgment. I think that the distraction comes in that place of judgment, because then when you are there, there is this sense of I've got to do something, and then there is this self-judgment for not being able to do something, and then there is
Correct.
the othering.
And
Somebody
it's
else is supposed to
disempowerment.
be doing
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
blaming that it's because other people, this person hasn't done that, and so on. And so all of the conspiracy theories are born. But
Correct.
beyond all of that noise, there is a very quiet place that you can enter into where you see those experiences and you honor them for what they are without entering into them as a distinct reality
Mm.
experience. There
Yeah.
is that. And interestingly, when you're in this state of dissolution, sometimes I feel like I pop in and out of that space. I find myself able to access it, and then I find myself
Yes.
kind of, when I say access it, I mean experientially, where I'm feeling that point of harmony. So I think my distress when I'm not feeling connected to that place is because of the memory of what it is like to be there, and
Yeah.
wanting this experience to kind of completely disappear so that only that remains.
And also what's quite amazing about it is that, so like you say, or what you experience now is like you say jumping in and out of these places, and what I perceive it to be. So for example sake, when I explained a little bit about this to my roommate, and he was like, look, you really need to look after yourself, like the writing piece you did, are you okay, like it feels like you're going a little loopy. I'm like, I'm totally fine. I was in a grieving process. The grieving process has rage and has a depression time.
Mhm.
I honor that. That is a sacred process for me. So we could call that lower vibrational, but like, you need to be careful in that process, but it is not something I judged,
Ah.
right? So,
Mhm.
but in that grieving process, it's like the grieving is happening to the human, right? The human personality, identity. But when we shift into the harmony, it's the multidimensional, higher aspects of ourselves
Yeah.
that keep giving us perspective,
Yeah.
and then we
Yeah.
pop back in. So,
Yeah.
what I said to him as well is, please, you need to understand that my process is not a dangerous process. And this is what's been fascinating to me is that the reception that I've given back, or that which is coming back to me as reflections of my interpretations of my truth and my expression at this point in time, have been that my expression is dangerous. My emotions are dangerous. They're leading me down a pathway to psychosis. They're leading me down a
Yeah.
potential to demonic, whatever,
That's an old story, B.
Yes,
That's
no, I'm aware.
old as time.
But it's also interesting because well, it feels like to me, because I've been observing this, it's like the demonic story comes in as an old story linked to institution and church. So this has come in quite specifically with one friend. But we can now say that the demon is AI, right? So there's all these other aspects. The point I'm trying to make is what I said to my friend is my grieving process was sacred. It requires presence. And however, you must understand, and it requires time, right? Because not only is it happening here in my human reality, but it is needing to be integrated throughout my
Yeah.
column,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
that's the part that people don't realize either, is it's not only happening in one station of identity,
Yeah.
it's
It,
moving through the
it
column.
diffuses across.
Correct.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's why, we can come into these spaces, and I had some like beautiful, magical wow moments through this, call it 8 week cycle of darkness and grieving. But there were also these moments of like glorious clarity, insight, downloads, a connection, whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it. And so it's like this game of perception again, and how many people would say, you need to be careful when you're in these low spaces. You can open yourself for this and that, and yet the human, and this is what I'm saying, the human requires the grieving process.
Yeah.
The human
Yeah.
requires the grieving process because that's what it means to be human. We are such a broad range of emotions, and that's the somatic process, right? That's what makes us powerful, that's what makes us real, that's what makes us organic, that's what makes us authentic. Um, so the multidimensional nature of what we're experiencing at the moment is really, really wild. It's really, really big. And that's why I said these moments of witnessing the distraction and coming back and viewing it as an opportunity for further mastery is
Yeah.
profound right now.
Yes. Yes.
Profound.
And you just said something about it being a game of perception, and that just resonates with me. It made me pause because the grief I was expressing to you this morning was as a result of my perception. That is my perception of the situation.
But it's
And
also as a result of your compassion.
yes, you
So,
see,
so both, so this is the thing is all of it plays a role. And like you say, we go through that inner war and that inner
Mhm.
turmoil to come back to peace because that's the
Center.
only power that you have in your control.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
And I
you're a
think
walking beacon.
it being a game of perception, I feel understanding that is empowering because it's not to diminish that it's perception, it's to just understand that in this moment now, this is how I'm seeing this,
Mm,
therefore this is how I'm experiencing this. And like you say, it is because of my compassion, my empathy, or my that heart experience, which also has value. So there's so many components that
correct.
speak to having this experience, this grieving, this process, and it almost feels like it's a. I mean, if we went to judge it, you would look at it as an alchemical process.
Correct.
It's uncomfortable. It's the sensation and the feeling of rage is unnerving, and the grief is just so painful, all of those things, but it's the process, and
Correct.
it's this alchemical process. It's the thing that you need to go through to kind of arrive at this place of, I guess, this place of unification where you return to your peace, to your harmony. And so we kind of move between these states. And sometimes for me, it feels like I I I enter into the space of grief and I feel it so viscerally, and then I move out of it to process what I gather from that experience. And then there is this clarity that happens, and then again you kind of move into another wave. And so it feels almost like a filtering, a clearing over and over and over
Yes.
happening through this process.
Creation process,
Um,
yes. And this is the thing that was so surprising for me, or not surprising at all, but interesting for me to receive people, a lot of people messaged me back and said, wow, that level of expression of your grief was fantastic. It was brave, it was courageous, and it was real. It was the real, like someone sent to me, that was the realest thing I've seen on the internet in 3 years. I'm like, oh, that's a huge statement because we're filtering a lot of data through the internet at any point in time. But family members again is like, and this one particular friend that I've alluded to in this chat, his behavior is sort of like from this perspective of Jesus is the savior, so a savior model. I'm going to speak to
Mhm.
the program. So the program is the savior modeling that you don't need to go through that grief. You don't need to alchemically filter all of this because Jesus is the ultimate. He is here. He is the one and only. He is the path to liberation, and just place all of your trust in this man, and it'll all be fine. And it's really interesting because it's like, well, that to me is a gaslight because it means that my pain, my grief, my empathy, my human nature, you're saying is invalid, doesn't need to alchemize in order to come to peace because peace is outside of me in
Mm,
model,
mm,
in this
mm,
model, right?
mm.
And the flaw in that model, from my perspective, is, well, so do we just sit and read the Bible all day with this belief system that it's all been given to Jesus and we don't feel what's happening on the planet? Like, because it's all necessary. And that's why I say it's like it is a distraction, but it's necessary to move through the alchemical process. It's
Yeah,
100% necessary.
yeah,
And that is what we do in every death and rebirth cycle. The data might be different, right?
yeah, but it's the same
But it's the
process.
same process all the time. It's
Yeah.
just the data that's changing.
Yeah, and I guess take it back to our initial part of the conversation where we talked about it being a bit of a loop.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
then wondering if it is entering into this space of peace about it, and what does the state of peace in embodiment look like?
And what
How
does
do
it
we
create?
what do we move outside of the loop? And
Mm,
if it is by coming to harmony, what does it then look like to be embodied in harmony,
mm,
just on a day to day, because again, you wake up and you still see the same things, and you see, I mean, sometimes you're feeling a lot more sensitivity to it, and sometimes it's not as much sensitivity to it. Um, but
like that statement, it's powerful because I've just said it's always like that. That is the alchemical process. The only thing that changes is the data. And you've re-entered the loop into the conversation, which is really, really interesting because I guess this is like really, 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 really looking at creation. Uh,
mm,
and I've been questioning this for a while of like, what does it look like outside of the loop? So, I guess that
this
perspective,
is the question.
that
Yeah.
perspective of we are creator, you create your own suffering.
Yes.
And this perspective from my one of the reflections of me with this Bible story and Jesus being the savior, um, maybe that does, create a creation story for that being where there is no suffering. It's really interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, because I mean, I'm
Like to be
really,
so razor sharp in your focus. So for that being that razor sharp focus is give it to Jesus, right?
yeah.
Cool, done. Let's say we're more of the liberated creators, knowing that we are Christ consciousness or God consciousness or just
Mhm.
consciousness. Let's not put a label on it. We're just consciousness. Do we just become so razor sharp that, like we say, anything and everything else is a distraction? It's an illusion. And the moment we give it energy, it's loosh.
I, my preference, shall I put it that way? My preference is for practical magic. I love my spirituality to be very embodied because I feel that my physical experience is a sacred, integral part of the experience as much as my higher self or my redeemed self. It's all part
Yeah.
of the same thing. I don't make this huge
A
separation. So,
hierarchy. Yeah.
yeah, so I feel that it's important for me to be able to, like you were saying, being this I understand myself to be a multi-dimensional being. I not just understand, I experience myself in that way. And so I want to allow myself to integrate back and forth. I don't
Mm,
know, you could call it up and down, back and forth, in
mm,
that what I'm learning and experiencing in what we are calling higher realms, avatar version of myself or whatever the story is. I'm integrating that back into my physical body, and what I'm feeling and experiencing somatically with my senses and so on in my physical body, I am moving back up into the rest of the
library.
my dimensional beings. So for me, it really wouldn't serve me much to just kind of have this laser focus that says, I renounce everything that is um, I'm observing
Yeah.
as unreal,
Because
and
that would deny that that is
my
one.
physical, yes,
Yeah.
yes, it would deny my physical experience, which I find is a very important part of my complete holistic beingness, and I value it as much as any other part of me. So I think from that perspective, I find that approach fragmenting.
Mm,
It
mm,
requires me to disengage with a certain part
mm.
of me, and for me, I'm not willing
Not
to.
integration. There's no
Yes,
integration. Yeah.
yes. I require the integration, and in that integratedness, because I'm very much aligned with the oneness of all things. So I cannot, there's no, like, over and over, I receive this in my heart, and it goes like this. I am that which includes everything and excludes nothing.
Mm,
And so if I sit with that over and over again, and oftentimes there's a desire within me to exclude something, and this is this
mm,
judgment
mm,
quality. You have to judge something to put it outside of
mm.
something else. So if I define myself in that way and experience myself in that way, that I am that which includes everything and excludes nothing, it is not possible then for me to exclude anything.
Yeah.
And so, the whole experience is the whole thing, and excluding any part of it diminishes what it is. And it's not possible to diminish the wholeness
The
of the whole
whole.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't,
So
and
I'm
so
having
this is,
I'm having
yeah.
thought as we speak. And I mean, dare I say this? So please bear with me.
Mhm.
Right?
There
I'm
you
just
see
going to
it.
say it because there's a part of me that fears saying it for whatever reason, persecution, judgment, whatever.
Yeah.
But it feels to me that cognitively we figured it out, which is why we are being presented with what I've spoken to as opportunities to practice mastery. And we can
Mhm.
call mastery, or we can call it the path of the Christ, or we can call it a set of values and responsibilities, right? But it feels like we've figured it out. We've figured out the alchemy, some
Mhm.
of us, all through this conversation.
Mhm.
Um, and one of your initial questions was, how do we hold it? And I think this is what is our practicing through embodiment right now is, and like I said, we move through the pillar. So either the human is feeling it, releasing it, alchemizing it. The higher layers are supporting because it already has that information. It's just the human that's
Mhm.
receiving it.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
then we
Yes.
just need a bit of a break and we pop into
Mhm. Yes.
you know what
Yes.
I mean? And
Yes.
at some point, we'll be able to hold more and more
All
and
of it. Yes.
all of
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Because cognitively, from what I perceive from this conversation, perception, is we've figured it out. We
This
must
is what
come
we
to
do.
we've got to alchemize through the war, through the polarization, through the distractions, the trickery,
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, the AI, the demonics, the religions, the politics, all of it, come to peace within and keep holding that for longer and longer and longer states of time
Yeah.
in
I
no
kind of,
time.
as you're describing it, so this is how I've experienced this work with the body. Now I'm coming into the embodiment story is when we have held space, you know, together for, say, ceremony. And I think that's kind of a microcosm
Mhm,
of the whole thing. I mean, I know that the work that happens in that space is goes something like this. We enter into the space together. We are at different places in our development, in our evolution, and so on. And
as
some people have,
individuals.
as individuals, yes, and some people have done certain kinds of work, and some people have not done or have done other kinds of work. Okay. So we are now in this space where we are wanting to move to a particular place of either clarity or release or new timeline or whatever it is we are in that session for. So what happens is that the people we are holding space for as medicine women, I'm going to put it simply that way, as medicine women, um, what the energy that comes from their experience, and oftentimes it's people are there to shed a density, a weight. You
Mm,
understand?
mm,
So to shed that density, you can't just drop it. It has to process. It
mm,
has to move through an alchemical process to then release. And I've seen this happen where you hold the space for people, you can feel the wave
mm,
come through and process and come out, and then you see the shift in the people
mm.
and the shift in the room and so on. And sometimes I'd find I'd have to go lie on the earth and move that energy into there. So all we are busy doing is kind of passing these energies to
Yeah,
each other, and the ones that are holding the space are literally processing that energy through them. So
great.
in the life day-to-day situation, for example, I drive out and take my son to school. I see all of this energy comes towards me through, I observe it, I see it. And now what needs to happen is that through my body,
It's alchemized.
I'm needing to process it and alchemize it. And so up comes the rage, up comes the grief, up comes. And as I'm saying this, I'm realizing that when you feel that, it's not just mine.
Great.
I'm
Correct.
feeling all of it. And this is
Yeah.
why it's so
Intense.
overwhelming. You
Yeah.
feel all of it.
Yeah.
And it feels like that also in ceremony. And it's like you have to work through it and allow
Yeah.
it to work through you. And in that way, you are processing that the density that is happening. And this is the work.
Collective
And I think
field.
oftentimes we don't see it as the work, like the day-to-day
Mm.
ceremony of it all,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess in a formalized ceremony space, you're expecting it.
Yes, you prepare for
Like
it
you're
also.
prepared for, well, I
Yeah.
mean, you you try to
Well,
prepare
you
to the best
try
of
to
your
prepare for it.
capability, but your mental body is knows what it's signed up for. But like you
Yeah.
say, when you just switch on the news and see whatever you see,
Yeah.
and when you drive down the road and you witness a hijacking or whatever it is, bearing in mind those of you that don't know that we grew up in South Africa, so pretty intense space, but the world is an intense space. So yes, it's like we're washing machines, right?
Yes. That's it. It's that, and the thing is, I mean, I feel this conversation has been very helpful for me because now I recognize and really understand what happened with me this morning.
Mm,
Because I it's also just understanding your place in the ecosystem. And I
mm,
feel like my place is very much that place of sensing into the energy that's around me and naturally alchemizing it. This is just what happens, but I'm not always thinking of myself in that way. So it comes from left field
Mm, mm.
sometimes. And
And also,
and
it's interesting because we've spoken to like, what do we do with all of this? How do we come to service? Yet, just by having this day, you've
yeah,
already done precisely what it is that you're designed to do
to do.
as the
Yeah,
alchemist, right? Just
yeah,
by going through the day, like the
yeah.
part of it, the part that you were afraid, that you were angry, the part where you called out to reach out to a friend for support, us deciding to have this
Have this
conversation, speak about it.
conversation.
This whole thing has been the washing machine cycle, you know, like
I mean, it's quite phenomenal. It's as if it's kind of a quick how-to guide, how to, move through this type of time and this type of experience because I mean, the stress of it all is on everyone. And oftentimes people will ask, like, how do I hold this in my body? How do I
mm,
continue, even as I'm feeling these kinds of things? And a lot of people are deep empaths in the sense that they can really feel what's happening, but often we think all of that sensation is our sensation, and we don't
mm.
really realize that it's yours and it's a collective situation.
Yeah.
And so we do not care for ourselves, I mean, in that way, because
Collective and multidimensional. So, breadth
yes,
and height.
yes, yes, yes.
It's huge,
It is
huge.
it is very big. Yes,
And you spoke about being able to see the future where the guidance was we have to help one another. And this is the thing, that's exactly how we've alchemized it today, is by you reaching out, us having a conversation in order to help
ah,
others. Whereas
yeah.
this is why we chose to have this podcast today, right? So we could speak about it so others can learn. And this is why I chose to record my breakdown. Just so everybody
Mhm.
knows, I'm not going to record every breakdown. I'm not a drama queen, but it was for a very specific reason.
Yeah,
And that reason was that you don't have to do this alone, number one, and that you don't feel like you're the only one
yeah,
losing your mind by
yeah.
yourself in your room while you're rocking yourself,
To
trying,
sleep, yeah. It
like
can be so rough. It can
so
be,
rough. And I'm sorry to
yeah,
laugh. I laugh because, it's yeah, I
it's part of the deal. I mean, you got to be able to laugh at it because
yeah.
yeah, otherwise you literally go crazy. Yeah.
That's
Oh,
it. We've solved it.
it feels like I feel like something has like rested in me because it's as if the experiences I've had of holding space along with you and also having space held for me have really helped me understand how this works in an embodied way, because I thought it would mean, you know, I don't know, some massive action, but
Mm,
actually it's really allowing the generosity of relaxing into the grief, if I can even say that. Like recognizing that it's happening, understanding why it's happening, and then allowing it, because this is the magic that in the vessel that is your body, you
mm.
allow that to move through you for the purposes of
Clearing.
clearance, purifying it for myself and for others. And the more we open ourselves to do that, this is how the work is done. At least if I look at it from an ecosystem point of view, this is my place in the ecosystem. This
Yes.
is my offering.
And
Is
that
that I give of my body because it happens in my body. I give of it in that way. And so I see it, I feel it, I allow it to move through me. It processes through in this way in community. It processes in community, and through that process we all, I guess, heal, or at least
yeah,
can get through the day.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And this
yeah.
is also where I feel I mean, this might be a whole nother subject matter, but we'll wrap up soon, everybody. But this is where I feel the next level of economy is going to come in. So as we describe this like unification point or the singularity point, it is through coming together that we reach this. Um, and we're going to need each other. So it's like everything is inevitable. So it's like now we come back to this confidence in divine right order, right? Whereas when we started the conversation, we were like,
Yes.
how can it be? It's
Yeah.
disproportionate. It's not, so it's like because of the dissolution, we need each other. So we come back together, and we start supporting each other. But the support and the grief that we're dealing with is so deep, so visceral, and it requires absolute presence, and it requires support from our other human beings, our family, our community.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, what I was saying here as an entry topic for another conversation is this new economy where I'm observing as a light worker, shadow worker, whatever name you want to call it, this dissolution of the structure of normal client work, right?
Hmm.
Because our friends, our community, our
Um,
close-knit community, those people who we resource from and give to, and our support network really needs us at the time because that support group is your most resonant frequency match. That's the most
mhm,
coherent match
mhm,
at that point in time. And so there's a lot of similarities happening in these spaces. And you've gone through it, so you know what they're going through. And when they ask you for support and help, you're going to be there. And sometimes
mhm,
that support and help is going to take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks of presence. So that's the coming back together. And
mhm.
in that presence, you don't have time to give of your services in the illusionary field of the business model anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Moves past that. Yeah.
Yes, it's past that, and it's what I'm witnessing is that I am doing less and less and less client work because I'm on the ground, embodied in absolute present now moment with either my own stuff or shit or grief or whatever you want to call it, shadow or light or just nature, stepping away from the computer. Um, or I'm assisting somebody else that is very, very dear to me. And that dear
Mhm.
person doesn't fall under the category of a client. I'm not going to
Client.
invoice
Yeah.
that person. And I really want to have a chat about this because I don't know if my circle is just as creators, the creators of so much quote unquote drama that we're just sewing each other's stories and I can't be of
Yeah.
service in the business model, or if this is actually how it's
The new way.
the new way, because you spoke
Yeah.
about, I've seen the future, we must help each other. Who is
Absolutely.
and of course that makes sense, but like why would I not help my most immediate network first?
Hmm.
That is
Hmm.
who,
Hmm.
that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
mycelial, right? Like, why begin outside of myself? Like, so yeah,
Yeah.
this is my thinking process around like the dissolution of economy, uh,
Yeah.
and the coming back to human connection because the like you say the data, or like we say, the data sets that we're dealing with at the moment are so big, and it's this way and this way.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and
I mean, to your point about the dissolution of economies, I'm just going to say one little thing, and that is care, your ability to care.
yes,
This is the new currency.
yes,
This is our basis for exchange going forward. I care for you, you care for me. We
yes,
care for each other within community, and in that is how the exchange happens. Because remember, the only thing money is just it's a means to exchange.
Yes.
And I know we've elevated it into a whole thing when we talk about economies and all these kinds of things as if it's got a life of its own. But the reality is that it's the purpose of it is for me to give you what's of value to me, and you exchange and give me what I find of value. And so if care is the currency we are working with, the real currency we're working with, there won't be a need for that in between thing, because
Mm,
we care heart to heart,
yes.
hand to hand, body
Yes.
to body. We
Yes.
care, you know.
I'm going to close this off now of like, this is where I invite everybody to be careful of the distractions. And the distractions come in the form of um, it's created to separate. And
Judgment.
that my way of thinking is better than your way of thinking. It
Mhm.
is draped in righteousness. It is draped in spiritual
Yes,
elite.
very much so.
It is draped in judgments. It is
Mhm.
draped in fear. It's coming from a space of fear, and it is
Mhm.
designed to distract so that that level and economy of care is ripped away, and
Mhm.
the economy of war, which is the thing
Mhm.
that we are
Mhm.
empathizing of, through
About.
and
Yes.
alchemizing
Yes.
for a reason, and it's fucking hard work to alchemize it. So let's come back to each other. So it's fascinating. It's really, really fascinating.
Yeah.
We can do another little model on the economies, but also what I wanted to share here is we haven't, and I think, I mean, I think we've rounded it up, but it's interesting to say, okay, cool. We've spoken about these two timelines moving to unification, which we're calling the Trinity, or we can call it the Unity, right? Unified field.
Mhm.
What's interesting here is the revolution and evolution of AI as a completely different timeline, or still within the unified field. So that's a topic for
Mm.
another day
Yeah.
completely, because that
Yes.
can take us down a rabbit hole. But essentially, guys, either way, even if we bring that topic in, because that's what my last post was about, and it's caused a very interesting response from people. So if you haven't read it, pop onto my Facebook page and you can have a read about it. There is a trigger warning there. If you're sensitive, not feeling grounded, it can be quite an activating read. So do be careful. But ultimately, what I say at the end, and this is where how our conversation started. What a beautiful way to end. The ending of my writing piece was, I know what to do now with all the questions I have around AI, God, reality constructs. Ultimately, I need
Mhm.
to come to harmony. And my friend Sanga is
Yeah.
she holds the harmony codes. I am very much sovereignty codes. And, I needed to free myself through that conversation, through that writing piece. And I sent her a message saying, thank you so much for being an anchor of harmony for me. And it was when I
Mhm.
finished writing that piece, that's when I sent that to you.
Wow. Wow.
And then you
Yeah.
were
And
like,
that's what made me
I'm
give the
freaking
call.
out.
Yeah, yeah, that's what made me give you the call. I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm not feeling the harmony. How is it happening? How am I anchoring it for you?
yeah.
And I think this conversation, it's just it shows me so much of what it is, how it is that we are meant to work with the experiences that we are having,
Yes.
for us as a collective, but also us as individuals. It's the conversation, the way that we came to have the conversation, and what has come out of it, has given me a lot of clarity, interestingly. Yeah,
Amazing. Well,
interesting.
at least your episode doesn't have to last 8 weeks like mine did.
See, this is the whole point, right? Yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
this is the also the beauty of life is you never know what you wake up to in the morning, right? Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
May it be beautiful. May it be beautiful. So thank you everybody for joining us again on Delicately Wild. I haven't had someone on for a while, and it's really, really late. And I just
Yes,
thank
it
you.
is. Late and cold.
Yeah. Sending lots of love, everybody. If you have any comments, questions, yeah, please pop them down below, and we will chat soon. Ciao.
Yeah, ciao. Bye.
We'll see you there. We begin in August. There are 2 options, 7 months and 3 months, and I really hope to see you there for this exquisite excursion into embodiment and quantum healing.